Meanwhile, Emirates Airline says it will resume passenger flight operations between Dubai and Nigeria on Saturday, February 5. In a statement, the airline says travelers coming from Nigeria must hold a negative COVID-19 polymerase chain reaction certificate, that's a PCR certificate, for a test taken not more than 48 hours before departure. Well, this means that passengers from Nigeria will need to take the COVID-19 PCR test within 2 days before departure. And before now, the airline had requested a negative COVID-19 PCR certificate for a test taken not more than 72 hours before departure. It said that the test certificate must be obtained from an approved facility and also contain a QR code. The airline also said that its validity would be calculated from the time the sample was collected. Upon arrival in Dubai, passengers will also undergo an additional COVID-19 PCR test and remain in self-quarantine until the results of the test are received.
To discuss these developments, we're joined from Lagos by Chris Aligbe, an aviation consultant and senior public relation professional. Chris, glad to have you join us on Newsnight. Let's start this way. Could you explain the safety decision 2021 to 2022 issue 24 released by both the UAE and Aviation Authority and the federal government?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Well, what is happening is that trying to streamline relationship between the two countries in the area of airline operation within the ambit of the Bilateral Air Services Agreement between the two countries. So, UAE, you know, in the past few weeks, we had challenges between UAE and Nigeria. That was resolved. That was, as you mentioned, when UAE denied Air Peace the routes and the frequencies that they wanted, including the airport of North, which is DBX, that's Dubai International Airport, and send it to Sharjah. But the government, Nigerian government, appropriately responded. And it didn't take quite some time before UAE withdrew their own positions, and then gave Air Peace 7 frequencies, not to Sharjah, which is the second airport, but to the main airport, the flagship airport, which is Dubai Airport. And since then, Nigeria then restored their frequencies. Yes, Emirates, no, Emirates has 21 frequencies into Nigeria, and eventually gave Air Peace 7 frequencies. And so they've been going backward and forward with all the rules. But that's what is happening everywhere in most countries. You know, when issues of COVID-19 arise, sometimes countries get jittery. Before knowing exactly what the situation is, they begin to apply rules. But we have gone past that now, and two countries have agreed on what the rules will be. What they're asking Nigeria to do is not very much different from what, that is travelers from Nigeria, it's not very much different from what many other countries are asking. That before you travel, make sure you have a COVID-19 test that shows that you are negative. On arrival, you also have to undergo the test, because even on board the flight, it is possible you can catch it. So I don't think there's anything extraordinary that they have done, and that is why the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has given all the approvals for Emirates to start operation. And the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority is hands-on on all the regulations, what the regulations will be, the global protocol. And so we are all back to at least resume operations, because there's so much traffic, there's so much on that route that Emirates certainly will be happy to return.
Right, I'm sure everyone on all sides, on both sides, will be happy that, airlifts will resume any moment from now. But let's even talk about the sense that foreign airlines seem to have an advantage or an edge in Nigeria, some kind of foreign dominance in Nigeria's aviation market. And some say it's actually killing the domestic aviation sector. Do you want to help us understand that and what exactly is happening on that score? And then the Bilateral Air Services Agreement, BASA, has anything even significantly happened on that score since 2020 that the National Assembly said it would begin reviewing it?
Well, nothing has basically changed. Reviewing the Bilateral Air Service Agreement, I don't think is an issue. Many people don't know that you don't very much review BASA. What is most critical is the relationship between two airlines. After two countries have entered into a bilateral air service agreement, there's then the commercial aspect that will be negotiated between two airlines nominated to operate that route from each country. What has happened to our situation is that since the unfortunate and ill-advised liquidation of Nigeria Airways, we have not had any airline operating internationally. Arik tried, but Arik pulled out. Once again, there was a time Medview tried, but Medview also demised. The only airline now operating is Air Peace, and we have our 78 bilateral air service agreements. Only the ones we have within West African sub-region are being operated. Many of them, not all of them, are being operated, but most other countries are not being operated. And it is because we do not have any strong airline to engage in those operations. Our domestic airlines are making great efforts at the domestic level, at the regional level, but at the international level, we are not there. That is why it pains many of us when we look at what is happening and we wonder whether we have not gone to a point where we should make effort to begin to respond to our bilateral service agreement. There's nothing, the truth of it is that as it is today, there's nothing we can do. We cannot stop airlines from other countries where we have bilateral service agreement from coming into our country, because they have not stopped us from coming into their countries. It is because we do not have the capacity to operate on those routes. And we cannot also stop them because Nigerians want to travel. We won't deny our citizens the opportunity to travel. They have a right to travel, and so we open up the space for them to travel. That's what is happening. And until we can get to the point where we have capacity, we build capacity to compete on these routes, this situation will remain the way it is. In terms of killing domestic airlines, I don't think international operations by foreign airlines are the thing killing Nigerian domestic airlines. There's a complaint anyway about what we call multiple entry points, that one airline will operate into Nigeria, operates Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Enugu. That's what some airlines are complaining, that it should be only one airport, not more than two airports of entry, so that domestic airlines can now take the passengers arriving on those airlines to their destinations. But that is neither here nor there, because the world is changing. When there were strict bilateral service agreements, airlines operated on strict BASA. That could happen. But today, we have what you call open skies with the US. Even in Africa, today, the issue is open skies for African airlines. You would have heard of a SATAM, Single African Airspace Operation. And that is what the country is facing today. We don't have the capacity, but some airlines are gradually trying to build capacity. I know APC is striving. I know Ibom Air is planning, trying to come up. I know Aero operates one flight or the other, but we do not have enough capacity to compete. And in as much as we don't have this, insofar will these situations continue. But we are losing a lot in terms of capital flight. We are losing so much, and Nigeria has to do something to pull it back.
Wish we had enough time to ask you exactly what we need to do to change this situation of capital flight in the aviation industry. Thank you so much, Chris Aligbe, aviation expert, joining us tonight on News 9.